What up, everybody? It's Ponter here, and today we've got another map review, and this time it's of Caldera, which is it's the domination map made by our very own House B, um, and it's definitely an interesting map. My first impression of it wasn't the greatest because I was playing a bot game, and it was just really fucked up. Um, but House B has provided a test game that he played in few player mode, which, if anybody doesn't know, it basically lets you play all four roles. It gives you way more points, which I don't really like few player mode. I think it's kind of dumb, but it's good for this kind of shit. But yeah, my first thing is like get some higher res screenshots, House B, because those screenshots in the intro loading screen don't look the greatest. But yeah, the again we're gonna be talking about the four categories of map judgment. The first one being aesthetics, which is obviously the most important thing when we're looking at maps. And I think aesthetically the map isn't that bad. It looks kind of like dog barf in a bowl, like if your dog just puked into its food bowl or something. And the trees look kind of weird. I don't like the looks of them. These pine trees, I don't know, little suspect. And but on the other hand, I really admire the thematic, the combination of thematic, um, visual map structure. Like it's a caldera, which I think is a volcano that has blown up and then gone dormant. So you kind of have this, gives you an excuse to have a circular map, because I can imagine how this thing is like, wouldn't a circular map be interesting? Like make it all symmetrical and shit. But instead of just arbitrarily making a circle, like you give it a reason. Like yeah, it's a caldera. It's gonna be a circle. It's gonna have like some curvature to it. And it's a much better concept than like Ozalt, which is literally like somebody drew Australia in Wick Map Maker, like a shape like Australia. It just pisses me off. Like it makes no sense. So compared to that, like this is much better, much better concept. And then like it's kind of got this yin yang shit going with the water. The town looks a little janky, like a little uncanny valley, like most custom maps. There's just kind of random shit everywhere. Like there's a fucking Ferris wheel, this crane thing. Although I like seeing this crane get destroyed, so that's a benefit. And there's random shit that's probably like this would be a good idea for gameplay. But then other things like rocks that are well placed to defend AA, which I'll get to later. But yeah, aesthetically it's not that bad. It's definitely better than some maps, which I will talk about later. So I'm gonna give it like an 8 out of 10 on the aesthetics, just because like the circle like the circle concept was it was a good idea and it was properly executed. And like yeah, I can forgive it kind of looking like dog puke otherwise. So yeah, it's good aesthetically. It's not that bad. Next is gameplay, which is a little different story. Like gameplay wise, there's a few. The main issue that I take with it is this area of the map. This is what I would call like broken terrain. Like Sun. If you ever read like the last chapter of Sun Tzu's Art of War, this is like entrapping terrain. Like you don't want to be in this terrain for very long. You want to move through this terrain, but you can't because all the majority of the CPs in this map are in this terrain, and it's like it's an infight dream. You do have this one lane where tanks can prosper, and you'll see this. Like, look, we have two heavy tanks kind of duking it out along this lane, and that's fine. But like, it's just going to be an shitty infest. But then it's going to suck in all the dumb players because of the CPs that will attract them like moths to a flame. And then, like, it's what happened in the bot game that I played on this. It's just, this becomes a fucking ocean of stupidity and blobbing. And, like, yeah, the inf players are going to have fun until everything gets burned and destroyed. But, I mean, yeah, the infight would be interesting for a little bit, and there are some opportunities for because of this forest. You could like throw some units at the 3-pointer, or you could throw some units here. So there's some diversity of attack lanes, but it's not going to be fun. It's going to be a grind, and then like it'll piss me off. This kind of pisses me off. But on the other hand, up here we've got a very nice, like, this is like the Thunderdome, like up here. Like there's some cover for your AA for either side. Like whatever side has the better armor support combo and line of sight and maybe a little bit of infantry help could dominate up here, and then that could have some impact on the game. Like if NATO is attacking this direction, if NATO gets a strong position, takes this is kind of like a swing. This is kind of like a swing point or a gimme point, but then you could apply pressure here. And unfortunately, this point is broken up by this fucking hill, so even a strong position up here isn't going to help. That isn't going to exert that much pressure on CPs, but you could almost turn the flank either way, and then could potentially impact the capping of this, which I'm going to talk about shortly. So yeah, that's interesting. I like the Thunderdome up here. It's open space. Might be interesting tank battle space. The other thing is this is a gift to the air players. A lot of the times maps like will allow a support player to set up a line, like an impenetrable line of AA that just protects everything, protects the backfield and whatnot. Because this is like perpendicular, or with like, yeah, like if your front line is here, this big ass open space is perpendicular to that. It allows like air to flank and get in the backfield, and so you can kill the arty noobs, you can spawn rape, you can do cool flanking maneuvers. I'm assuming like this will be filled up with medium air players just ruining the game, so I like that. Obviously this is like an invitation for noobs to spawn like 6 APCs and go on a fucking journey that takes half the game, but that's not the map maker's fault. That's just like the stupidity of players. So, and also like this could have been an island, but it's not a complete island. It's like almost an island. If it was an island, that would be terrible, but he did not make it an island, so thank God for that. So it's not that bad. The other thing is like there's so many fucking CPs. So many of them. There's like 16 of them, I think, last time I counted. It's a little too much. Just a little too much. And they're all packed together, and I'm sure there was like a lot of thought put into like, well, we need 2 here, and we need 2 here, and we need 2 here to make it all balanced and whatnot, but the number of CPs is really... Like, Farmland has like 8... No, it's like... Yeah. I don't know. Farmland has like no CPs compared to this. Like, there's so many fucking CPs here. And the other thing is... Okay, so this CP is pretty interesting. Like, I'm gonna call it the long CP, and like, it's fucking long. It's like longer than my dick. It's longer than the range of a heavy tank. Like, look at this heavy tank sitting in the middle. It can barely get the range. It can't even get range on this CP from this other CP. Like, this is unprecedented in WIC. No one has had such a massive CP in like a normal, like, this belongs in a tug of war, and you can watch this. Like, it does give some opportunities for interesting play. Like, Valentine's going for this awesome cap. Like, so I understand why it was done, but I think the reason, like, if anybody's played tug of war, you hate it because it's annoying to try to cap those long points. And I think the state of this, the natural state of this CP will be to be neutral. Like, this is obviously going to be held by NATO. This is obviously going to be held by USSR, and this is probably going to be held by USSR. Just from, like, if you draw a line here, like, that's kind of the halfway point, I think. And it makes sense. Like, this is a gimme for USSR. This is a gimme, this is a gimme for NATO, and this is a gimme for NATO. This is probably a gimme for NATO, so this is, like, definitely within NATO's view. So it's like, it looks like it's NATO's point to take, and to do pushes like that, like what Valentine did, but it'll probably be very difficult to establish a position here. Definitely easier to establish a position here than here, because like there's way more cover on this side, but that's like a discussion for balance. this is gonna be a fucking nightmare to fight over, and it doesn't really add much to the gameplay. Like, why not just have like a double pointer here and a double pointer here? And again, because like this game is all about setting up positions and controlling the space around the positions. Like this tank, you know, it can control all this area and even like exert pressure here. But as we saw, like a tank here can't even control this point and this point. Like, you know, I guess it forces players to play the whole map. But I can just see like, I can see myself like struggling so hard. Like, let's say we're USSR, we're raping NATO, and like I have a drop here. I'm dropping like 30 TAs worth of, you know, area denial shit over here to get this point, and I get it, and then like they spawn and just decap it immediately, and I'm like, what the fuck was the point? So yeah, I'm not a big fan of this. So because of the broken ass territory here, the number of CPs, and I have hopes, but I also have doubts that this would actually be conducive to a good, interesting armor support fight. I'm giving it like a 6 out of 10 on the gameplay score. And yeah, like this might be interesting to play out. I'd have to test it a little bit more, because every time you know, this is just House B being a noob, but not preventing that cap. So yeah, that's the gameplay score. And in terms of balance, I think it's not like a symmetrical map, because as we noted, like really the gimme points are these for NATO is a bit like this 3-pointer and this double pointer. So that's like we've got 5 gimme points, and maybe 6 because this one is kind of on their side as well. But USSR has like 6 gimme points, like these 6 right here. So it seems like in the natural state of things, USSR is going to have a slight advantage. But if NATO can control this, then they'll have a slight advantage. And I'm assuming that this is just going to be neutralized, because like no one's going to be able to hold this for any period of time long enough to matter. You know, it's just too unstable of a point. Really, the only reason you expend resources to cap this is to like get your, I don't know, 14 or 24 TA from capping a triple pointer. Otherwise, like, it seems pretty well balanced. Like, Houseby's not a noob, so he knows, like, there are some maps that are just clearly made by noobs, and they like forget basic balance shit and make the maps incredibly unbalanced. But there's nothing glaring about this, so it's pretty well balanced. I would say, because the USSR can really have no hope of capping this, it's a little NATO bias. And also I think NATO, if they can control up here and like do what Valentine's doing right now and chip away at the forts here and decap this, you know, USSR doesn't really have that opportunity. Like if USSR pushes and takes this point, that's great. But other than that, they're just kind of like they have nowhere else to push. So I guess like getting this would be the objective of USSR, but that would end the kind of struggle. The other thing, like this is very far away from the USSR spawn compared to this, so this seems much more vulnerable to drops. Although this one has more cover around it, so yeah, I mean it's like it's comme ci comme ça. It's pretty much the same. So I would say it's like a 7 out of 10 on balance. Probably a little more balanced than that, but you'd have to play test it a lot more. And finally, we got gimmicks. So there's a few gimmicks on this. The big one, like, you know, this is almost an island CP, but it's not, so that's not a problem. The fucking Ferris wheel, that's kind of gimmicky, but it's not a problem. The big problem is this triple pointer, and I'm just giving it a big fat -5 on the gimmicks for this thing. I was thinking of giving it a -3 for each like CP, but no, I think it's just a flat -5 on the gimmick score. So that gives us like a 5 out of 10 on gimmicks. Otherwise, it's pretty straightforward. And there's no major flaws with the map. Like I didn't play test it enough, but there wasn't any like major pathing errors. Like I can imagine that pathing in some of these places is annoying. But yeah, there was nothing egregious about it. I would just say this triple pointer is the only egregious thing on the map in terms of gimmicks. Just because I haven't seen it before, maybe it's a good idea. I just don't think it is. And yeah, so that's gimmicks. So that gives us a total score of 26 out of 40. And I think that's like it's like a 65% on the so it's a passing grade. It's passable. It's definitely not a map that you shouldn't play. And I would hope to see some, like, I know it's available on some of the servers. House B has made sure of it. So it can be played, and I think it should be played, unlike some of the other maps that I will do reviews of. But yeah, the triple pointer, I don't know, fucking tug of war. It seems like I understand why it was done like that. Like a lot of people have been asking for like really big, stupidly large CPs. I just don't think it works very well, in my opinion. So yeah, it's a good looking map. I don't know how great it would play in a competitive sense. I'm assuming it would be pretty cringy in a pub, just because there's a lot of traps for stupid players to do stupid things in. But that shouldn't knock a map for the stupidity of the players. But yeah, I think it's a good map. It's just I don't think anything should be changed. We'll watch Valentine lose. A few player mode is hilarious. Like, this is what you do in a few player mode. You just get air and just own everybody. It's pretty hilarious. And yeah, we'll just play Valentine out. Yeah, he's bad at few player mode. I don't think anybody's very good at few player mode unless you're like a fucking alien. So yeah, that's Caldera. Decent map, and definitely not biased by its creator. Like, I'll be pretty honest. Like, I didn't enjoy the first time I played it. But I'd be happy to play it again, I think, and try it out some more. And I don't think anything should be changed. I think it's fine the way it is. So yeah, the next one, I've got a replay of, where the fuck is it? Midway. I'm going to do Midway next, because I played against bots and it was pretty decent. And I have some words about Midway. And then we'll get into the really bad maps, because there's some really bad ones. So yeah, hopefully you enjoy that. I'll go and try Caldera. It's on the servers right now. Download it if you haven't, you fucking noobs. And yeah, we'll see you on the battlefield.